Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lord, we need your presence. We need your spirit, Lord. Just breathe on us. Ooh. I got a phone call from one of the members one day, and she was telling me that her child had been listening to really intently to what we were doing in service. And this song right here, I believe, is the one that was singing. And they were at home, and it was raining outside.
My God.
And the child told her, Mama, we need to go outside. Because Reverend Sparks said we need to let it rain on us. Yeah, we do. I know she listened. She listened. And I wonder sometimes if we listen to what we're actually saying. When was the last time you knew you got good and drenched from the Lord? Yeah. When was the last time you knew it happened? Yeah. Rain has so many qualities. Yeah. I love the part of this song that says, send your refreshing, Lord. Some of us are stale in our worship. We need a refreshed worship. We need a fresh anointing. We need the Lord to create in us a clean heart and to renew a right spirit within us. Too much stuff has happened, and we're letting the stuff run us and not our relationship with the Lord. Rain on me, Lord. Rain on us. Rain on us. Surround us in this place. Breathe new life. Send a refreshing. Yeah, do this, and then I'm going to get off of it. I want you this evening when you go home to think about times in your life when the Lord refreshed you. When he refreshed you. When you know in your life you got to reset. Because maybe it's been too long since the last time there was a reset in your life. That may be why things don't seem to be going so well for you. You need a reset, a refresh. That don't mean you got to get rid of everybody, because I found this out. When I get a reset, Brother Hudson, I look at folk different. They don't change, I change. My appreciation changes. And ask the Lord to reset you. Push that reset button down. I got a little mole on the back of my head. I do. It's been there for a long, long time. Every now and then I'll be doing something and Karen will come behind me and touch that little mole on the back of my head. And I'll tell her, oh, you just reset me. Yeah, we need it. Don't reset me too often. Be to forgot everything. Maybe I need to. Maybe I need to. Send a refresh. Yeah. Amen. Amen. Yeah. Send it. Help. Got a few weeks before our next big holiday, and I've been asking the Lord, show me a series of messages that I can talk to you about, try to help you. I'm always asking the Lord to show me not just something to preach, but something that has meaning, that's helpful, might bless somebody. And so he told me that there are a lot of people who are really not happy with themselves. There are a lot of people who are really struggling right now with who they are and what's going on in their life. And so he led me to this sermon series that we're going to call Creating Me a Clean Heart. Yeah, I love David. I love his sincerity. David was sincere when he was wrong, and he was sincere when he was right. Maybe that's why God said he was a man after his own heart. He just didn't make pretense. And if he was wrong, he said he was wrong. Which is, I know why the Lord loved him, because he had little problem coming to him. And so in other words, the relationship between David and the Lord can be categorized as they kept it real. All right? They just talked to one another in a way that needed to be done. David got to a point when he was feeling good about his relationship, better about his relationship with the Lord. And he said, Lord, I want to do something for you. I want to build you a temple. And the Lord just kept it real with him. He said, well, David, you can get all the stuff together, but you can't build my house because you got too much blood on your hand. You've been in war too much. And the one who builds my house needs to have cleaner hands than you have. Now, imagine you in that situation and you say, I want to do something for somebody. And they tell you, no, I don't want you to do it. But David did exactly what the Lord said. He got all the material together, amassed all of it from all over the kingdom and all over the world. And his son came along and was the one who was able to build the temple. And I thought about that. That's probably a metaphor for our lives, that we spend a lifetime preparing things, but maybe it's not for us to bring that something to fruition. Maybe it's our children or our grandchildren that will bring together what we've amassed. And we get frustrated sometimes because we can't put the cherry on top of the ice cream soda. But maybe that's not our job to do. Maybe it's just our job to scoop the ice cream. And maybe somebody else comes along and puts in the soda. And maybe there's another generation that comes and is able to put the cherry on top. That doesn't diminish you scooping the ice cream. No, because it takes all of it to make an appealing something for everybody else. So be mindful of that. But in order for that to happen, we got to have a solid relationship with the Lord. And so creating me a clean heart. Clean heart. That's the title of the sermon series. You know, I think in order to get a clean heart, we got to get rid of some stuff that's in us. You might not amen me too much on this. I believe you will. I believe it's going to be instructional, informative. And this message comes from 1 Samuel chapter 18. And there are 3-4 verses in there that I want to read, starting at the 6th verse. The 6th verse. First Samuel chapter 18, verses 6 through 9. They may be familiar to you. The word of God reads, when the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing, with joyful songs, and with tambourines and lutes. And as they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands. Verse 8 says, Saul was very angry. This refrain galled him. It said, they have credited David with tens of thousands, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? Verse 9 is the verse that I want to key in on today. And from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. And from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. And so, In the sermon series, Creating Me a Clean Heart, the first sermon I want to talk about is, Lord, help me to remove jealousy from my heart. Help me to remove jealousy from my heart. Last year we were talking about Ebola. That's where everywhere you turn, there was an article about Ebola. Somebody looked like they came from Africa, which we all do. And they want to know, do you have a fever? Do you look sick? People were petrified of this disease, Ebola. And then suddenly, people stopped talking about it. Just kind of went away, even though in truth Ebola was still harming many people, still killing people. But there wasn't this rabid reaction to it. This year it's the Zika virus. Last year was Ebola. This year it's the Zika virus. Next year is probably going to be something else. But everybody's concerned now and freaking out with mosquitoes because of the Zika virus. And I'm not saying that there's not good reason to be concerned under certain circumstances about these viruses. I'm just here to tell you that while we pay attention to these outward, overt pandemic problems, there are some things that affect us every day that are worse viruses than either of these two I've just talked about, and we don't tend to pay much attention to these diseases, to this one in particular. Yeah, this virus that I'm going to talk about today is powerful enough to rip apart relationships. It's strong enough to destroy our individual potential, and it's strong enough to ruin our lives. And the virus, if you got to put a name to it, is the virus of jealousy. Jealousy, simply defined, is when we resent God's goodness in other folks' lives and ignore God's goodness in our own life. When we resent God's goodness in other folks' lives and we ignore his goodness in our lives. Being jealous means to be envious of other people's blessings, but taking for granted our own blessings. Yeah, sometimes we're jealous of stuff that people have, their possessions. We ask ourselves, how come they get such nice stuff? Or why, particularly, our children are really bad about this. Why did he get such nice Christmas stuff? And all I got was clothes. As if clothes can't be nice presents. Or sometimes it's not possessions. Sometimes we're jealous of other people's privileges. Why do they get to go here and there and do those things, and I don't get to do it? Why do they get to meet the president and I don't get to meet the president? Sometimes we're jealous of people's success. Why did so-and-so get a promotion? And I didn't get that promotion even though I worked real hard. I didn't get it. I've been here longer. I wanted it more. They promised me I was going to get it, and somebody else instead got it. Maybe sometimes we're jealous of people's popularity. He's got all the friends. Everybody wants to be with him or with her, and nobody wants to be around me. I don't have, not any, but I don't have that many friends. So sometimes we jealous of how folk look. jealous of their appearance. Yeah. Why don't I have good hair like that? How come I don't have a body like that? They're a brick house. And I look like an outhouse. I mean, what is it? What is it that's wrong with me? Why'd I get stuck with this body? Don't tell me I'm wrong about it. It ain't just women either. Yes, sir, no, this is everybody want to know. Why can't I have whatever it is they got? Why does their children look so good? Now don't make me think I'm petty. Because you know and I know that folk look down on people all the time because of what they have. Why they get to go on those vacations. And we don't go nowhere. Well, I wish I could tell you it was a new situation, but alas, it's not. No. As long as there have been people and more than 2 apples, somebody gonna be upset because one person got 2 and they got 1. Yeah. That's just the way it is ever since sin entered into our existence. We invited it in. This passage of scripture that I've got is a clear indication that it doesn't matter how high you've risen in life. It doesn't matter how much favor God has shown on you. It doesn't matter how much success or how many blessings God allows to fall on you. Right. You can reach the highest rung of society and still suffer from the lowest of emotions, and that is jealousy. If you just look right here at this passage of scripture I just read, Saul is the one who is the center of attention. Did I tell y'all he was the king? He's already the king. He's been the king. He's the first king Israel ever had. And guess what? Guess why he was the king? Wasn't because he was the strongest. Wasn't because he was the most brave in battle, Mason. It wasn't because he was the most gifted orator, dynamic speaker. The reason why Saul became the king, the first king of the Israelites, is because he looked good on a horse. That's what the Bible says. Because he looked good on a horse. The one who was leading the Israelites before Saul was Jehovah. Jehovah was the one who led them in the battle, was the one who secured the battle, was the one who made sure all their provisions were there, was the one who protected them even when they were outnumbered. God himself was the one who was taking care of them. But we are people, and we can sometimes vote against our own best interests. And that's what they did. They voted against their own best interest and said, we want a leader who can ride out in front of our troops like the other folks have. And we want a man. And the man they picked was Saul. The Bible says that he was taller than everybody else. Yeah, said he was very tall. Must have been, one of those strapping guys and they say he looked good on a horse. But can I tell you, it wasn't long before Saul was the king, before not only did the folk know it, but God knew, we made a mistake. Because it doesn't matter how good you look on the outside, if you got something messed up on the inside, it's going to come out. And that's where we are with Saul. He had something on the inside that he couldn't get rid of, and here it is, it peeks out. In chapter 18, verse 9, what's on the inside of Saul comes to the outside, and the writer tells us from that time on, Saul kept not just an eye on David, he kept a jealous eye on David. If you rewind the clock briefly and go back to chapter 10, you'll see that it's just then that Saul is even made king. But by the time we get to chapter 13, Saul is already exhibiting how flawed he is. Just by chapter 13. Now, I'm not telling you how much time has passed, but you don't have to go very far in 1 Samuel to realize that Saul wasn't who they needed to be their leaders. In chapter 13, Saul showed that not only was he jealous, he was impatient. They had finished a battle, and they were waiting on the priest to show up so that he could offer sacrifices to the Lord. And Saul didn't wait on the priest. Saul decided that the priest was taking too long, so Saul went in and did the sacrifice, an unauthorized sacrifice. The Lord said quickly, your kingdom, in verse 14 of chapter 13, your kingdom will not endure. Your days are numbered because you don't follow the rules. And then in chapter 15, Saul was commanded by the Lord, who still has his hand over him. He said, when you go in there and kill the Amalekites, he said, I want you to kill every one of them. I want you to kill everything they got. Don't bring anything out from the Amalekites. Kill the horses, the dogs, the cows, the pig, whatever is there, kill it. Because I don't want you bringing any of that sinful group into my people. Saul gets over there and only listen to part of the story, Art. Because he realized when he got over there, he said, man, ain't nothing wrong with them cows. Nothing wrong with the sheep. What the sheep do to anybody? And so Saul, after he did the first part and killed everybody, took all the sheep and the cattle and took them back to the Israelites. And when called out about it, he lied to the Lord and said, I was bringing them for the people to offer them as a sacrifice. So he wasn't even man enough to stand up to his own choices. And the Lord said in chapter 15, I am grieved that I have made Saul king over Israel, because the man doesn't listen. He has turned completely away from me. Now, it's interesting that God didn't immediately move in because he wanted stability for his folk. He didn't immediately move in to remove Saul. In fact, Saul stayed the king for another 25 years. Another 25 years. And by the time we get from chapter 10, where he's made king, to chapter 18, we realize that the wheels have just come completely off the train track, and Saul is out of control. Even though he's got all these reasons to be happy, even before this passage of scripture, he's got every reason to be happy. And yet, because he has a jealous heart, he can't see any reason to be happy. That's how it is in our lives. If we look around, we got every reason to rejoice and thank the Lord. But because we're looking at it with a green eye, we can't concentrate on how good God has been to us. Saul has a promising young shepherd boy who's in the kingdom, who's been brave enough to go out into battle. And with a few meager resources, this shepherd boy has killed the arch enemy of the Israelites, a Philistine named Goliath. Goliath is dead, and a shepherd boy from his kingdom has done it. You would think that Saul would be ecstatic, since his most dynamic fighting men couldn't do it, and a shepherd boy did it. The Israelites have now been victorious over their number one enemy. Not only that, the boy who killed him has taken up a good friendship with Saul's friend. Dynamic young man. Didn't do anything wrong to anybody and only wanted to serve the Lord and his king. And yet we find that when they come back from battle, while Saul should have been jumping up and down, cheering, he should have been leading the cry of celebration. Instead, he only heard one line. Just one. One line out of the celebration story, and that's what turned him completely off. This man who has killed himself dozens and dozens, according to the song, he's killed thousands of men. But the women, when they were celebrating, and this was common, they didn't just pick it out for this occasion. They did it also in Exodus when the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt. They celebrated then. They celebrated in Judges after the Canaanites were beaten by Israelites. So it's not something new they brought to the table. But on this occasion, the women start singing, they're celebrating, and they say, Saul has slain his thousands. And they should have struck that last line. And they said, and David, his 10,000. Now, anybody that's rational listening to this song would have known that they weren't trying to knock Saul. What they were trying to say was Saul and David are a dynamic duo. If you put them together with the Lord, there's no one that can beat them. But all Saul heard was 10,000. And you can tell from his response that he was already off in another direction. He said to himself, can't you just see him walking with his hand behind his back, trying to think about what he's heard? They say, I killed 1,000. And then here comes this little nappy-haired boy in here, and they bring him in here, and they say he didn't kill 10,000. I killed 1,000, but this little just started fighting. I've been in battle all these years, and he comes in here. What's left? They just gonna make him king. That's what he said. What's left but for them to give him the kingdom? This is how he thinks about it. He gets very offended, and from that moment in his life until the end of his life, he can only look at David as an enemy. He can only look at David with a jealous eye. Said he kept a jealous eye on David. Can I give you, I want you to write this down. It is impossible to be happy and jealous at the same time. Impossible. It is impossible to be happy and jealous at the same time. You know that little crazy look they give you when they say, uh-huh. That's real nice. You know what they mean. For real? I'm so happy for you. And happy don't really come out their mouth right, because they're not really happy. When you're resentful over what God is doing in another person's life, it literally steals your joy. And it leaves you feeling miserable and empty on the inside. Yeah, look, Proverbs 14:30 says it best. It says, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy literally rots your bones. Envy, jealousy, rots your bones. That's wasting disease. In other words, you're going down the other way. You probably start having health problems because you are just jealous of other folk. It will mess you up worse than one of these viruses I talked about. Envy and jealousy will destroy you from the inside. It's a cancer that you need to get rid of. That's what happened to King Saul. He became so obsessed with David that at every opportunity he tried literally to get rid of him. And in fact, in verse 10, it says, an evil spirit from the Lord took him over. Now look at this. When you stop looking at how good God has been and you open the door to envy, be careful, because anything can come through that door when you open it. And I'm telling you that an evil spirit is going to take the opportunity to come in and take over, and he is going to, can I use today's word? Every time happens, he's going to throw shade over it. Yeah, you're never going to see the situation as it should be, because his job, he's sleeping all other time, anytime something else going on. But when you look at somebody else and almost want to celebrate him, his job is to wake up, get up, and pull the shade down. And that's why you cannot see the good in other folk. All you can see is that it's not you that it's happening to. So ask yourself, that was a situation right after this where David, who has been hired by Saul to come in, because we know David has the gift of music. And David could play the harp. And so the king commissioned him to come in and play the harp. He said, when I'm having these bad thoughts, your music is the only thing that soothes me. Now, imagine that. Can you follow this with me? That he's having bad thoughts because he's jealous of David. And when he's actively psychotic and jealous of David, the only thing that calms him down is David playing music for him. That's how twisted this whole drama was. And David is sitting over there playing the harp. You know how you do it, Reggie, just playing, just in the zone, in the Reggie zone, just playing. Probably got his eyes closed, thinking of some lyrics he can put into the song. And all of a sudden, he feels something whoosh past his head. Saul has picked up a spear and thrown it at him and missed him. And if that wasn't bad enough, he picked up another one and tried to hit him again. And every turn, Saul is acting on this jealousy and trying to get rid of David. He does not want him to receive any blessings. And throughout all this, do you know what David did to deserve it? Absolutely nothing. I've heard people say this before, and I want you to know the difference. People come, they say, you think you're better than me. And that's not the case. But what they really mean is, I think you're better than me. There's a big difference in somebody thinking they're better than you and you thinking they think they're better than you. Huge difference. In one situation, the dialogue is all in your mind. All in your mind. David never took any chance, never took any opportunity he had, and he had times that he could have killed Saul. Never took any opportunity. In fact, he adamantly refused to do it and said he will not touch the anointed of the Lord. Will not touch it. He was urged to kill him. Caught Saul slipping really bad one time. Saul had gone into a cave to relieve himself and didn't know that the cave he went into, David was hiding in it. David could have killed him. No one would have known what had happened. In fact, David was close enough that he cut the tassel off Saul's robe and let him go on his way. And he sent the tassel to let him know that this is how close I was to you. But I would not bring any harm to your head. Still didn't change Saul. Saul continued to try to harm him. In fact, Saul was so irrational that his own son, Jonathan, turned against him. Jonathan believed in David so much that he gave up his right to the throne so that David, he couldn't have stopped God anointing him anyway, but he gave up his right and actually worked and helped David. So what is it you have to do if you got a situation going on, maybe not as bad as Saul, but you got a situation going on where you find yourself jealous of other folk. Just envious. See, this is not something people going to readily admit. No. It's one of those situations where you suffer in silence on this one. And so I want to give you some ways that you can deal with it. The very first thing you need to know, well, you got to ask yourself this first: why am I doing it? Why am I jealous of someone else? Is this person really out to get me, or am I just stressing for no reason? What's going on? And the second thing you got to ask yourself is, what am I accomplishing by this? What do I accomplish by being jealous of this person? Does it increase my situation? Does it change my circumstance? Will it make my wife love me anymore, or my husband love me anymore? Will it get me a better job? Why am I out to undermine this person through jealousy? Will it get me the recognition and the praise that I want, or I believe I deserve? The truth of the matter is God is blessing David in every single thing he's doing. And that makes Saul feel even more secure. So imagine this. Saul is trying to get rid of him, but at every turn, God is blessing him. You got somebody like that in your life. It seems like the more you do, the better they get. Yeah. Don't. When God has got his hand on you, there's nothing that can stop the blessings from coming through. People say all the time, favor ain't fair. Yeah, I say favor ain't fair, but when you're faithful, it's frequent. All right? It is. When God is blessing you, he'll let it rain down on you. He'll let it rain down. The last thing your enemy wants to see is you drenched in God's favor. So how do you change this situation so that it helps you get better and stop suffering? Say, Lord, created me a clean heart. The first thing you got to do is admit that you struggle with this problem. Yeah, that's the first thing. I'm struggling with this. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to sit around. You don't have to go to no self-help meeting and say, hello, my name is Andra, and I'm jealous. You don't have to do that. No, you don't. You don't. But you do have to admit to yourself that you harbor envy and bitterness. Yeah, don't deny the truth. Don't boast about it, but don't deny it either. James 3:14 says, if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Yeah, don't brag on it. I can't stand such and such and such. So, folk get bold these days and just come straight out and say, I can't stand such and such. Why? He thinks he's so much. She thinks she's that. You're not saying anything about that person. You're saying a whole lot about yourself when you say that. And it's interesting. Most of the problems that are going on in our schools today have to do with this kind of envy, and little girls are really bad at it. They will torture one another. Because one is able to buy a certain level of clothing that the other ones can't. And they think somehow that makes them better than the other folks, because in fact they put it on them and say, she's poor. As if a child has something to do with how he or she is being raised, and they hold it up as a badge of courage. She ain't got no cell phone. I got one. As if that makes me better because I got a cell phone. And I got to tell you this, you probably one step off a whooping with that cell phone. Yeah. That you wouldn't have if you didn't have that blessing called a cell phone. Yeah. I don't know if Pew has done this research yet, but I assure you that the number of whippings have gone up exponentially since the social media revolution. Yeah, because you not only stuff we used to think, now you can put out there. And good gracious, you'll get snatched up in the middle of the night from the bed because your mama happened to go across your little kick page or whatever. Get up. What is all this mess you talking? And the truth of the matter is we hurt ourselves by doing it. And all of it stems from, can we make it base? Envy. Jealousy. As if a child has something to do with what kind of hair they got. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. But the first thing, mamas and daddies and children too, if you in here, admit that sometimes I get jealous about stuff. I'm envious of what I see other people have. And I don't know why. It doesn't mean I don't have something too, but I just want to know why they seem to always get the come up. Why they always seem to be doing stuff. You got to admit that bothers you, but let me give you some relief on this. If you're spending so much time looking at what other folks have, that means you're spending too little time looking at what you have. You need to spend more time looking at how God has blessed you. And I promise you, if you will simply learn to appreciate what God has done for you, who wants to keep giving somebody something that doesn't appreciate it? Why in the world would I keep blessing you if you don't appreciate what I've already done for you? God knows your heart. Whether you ever open your mouth or not. He knows if you don't appreciate what he's already given you. So you need to admit it. Never met anybody that's quick to admit jealousy. No, they won't. They'll admit they're a liar first. They will. They'll admit they're a liar before they admit they're jealous. In fact, I'll let you in and I'll move on. I ask a lot of guys that come in front of me with gun cases, my standard colloquy. All right, man, so tell me why you got to have a gun. I don't know, you know, man, folk jealous. This is what they say. Folk jealous of my stuff I got. This is what they say every time. I said, stuff you got? What stuff do you have? This is the truth now. This is the truth. If you've ever been here, you can hear this day after day. You know, man, you know, I got a car with some nice rims on it. I said, so you got to carry a gun to protect that. I said, you ever heard of insurance? You ever heard of that? Insurance, you know. You ain't got to carry no gun. I said, so you prepared to shoot somebody over your car? Well, you know, you don't know where I live. I said, I probably grew up where you live. But this is what I'm talking about. It's so deeply entrenched in the psyche that they believe not only, they believe everybody wants what they got because they got something. They think it's, come on now. Come on. Gotta admit that they're jealous. And the reason why they've gotten to that point is because they have been jealous of what somebody else had.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so they put themselves in a bad position. Admit that you're struggling with this situation. Stop excusing it. Stop justifying it. Stop minimizing it. It's not a little problem in your life. It's a major problem. You got to get it off your chest. Admit that you got this problem. And then remember, sound like a preacher statement, but it's the truth. Remember that every one of us is special in God's eyesight. And he has uniquely blessed each one of us with something that other folk cannot do. It's just yours. He has uniquely designed you. Maybe you haven't reached the point in your life when your speciality is known by everybody or known by anybody. But I'm here to tell you that God has something special just for you. It may not be that you'll ever get to be public about what God has given you special. But that doesn't mean it's not special. I read in the paper yesterday, and in fact, I want to do a profile in living history on this woman. Her name is, they call her Doll. She works down at Highlands Restaurant. She is the pastry chef. The pastry chef. She is the pastry chef. She has been the pastry chef for 30 some odd years down there. 30 some odd years at the Highlands and Bottega and Chez Fun, all those restaurants. She makes all that wonderfully decadent dessert. But for 30 years, nobody has known who she is. Wow. This past week, she was nominated as one of the top 6 pastry chefs in the nation. Wow. In the nation. Now, I want you to see something here. I want you to see something. Her boss has been nominated over and over and over and over again. In fact, Highlands has been nominated 8 years in a row as one of the best restaurants in the country. And Frank Stitt has been a James Beard Award winner. It's like the Oscars for culinary folk. Over and over he gets nominated, and part of what he's getting nominated for is her work. Her work. And so she works in almost obscurity, but yet for 30 years she gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She works all day long, over and over. Let me tell you this, God will keep blessing you. Keep blessing you. You just do your part. Don't give up. God has something special for you, and I love this. She went to school to be a computer operator. A computer operator, and ended up making her living based on the cakes and pies she learned watching her mama and sister cook in the kitchen. What God has for you is in you already. He'll bless you. It may not be your plan, but he's got a plan for you. You don't have to be envious or jealous of anybody else. God says you have no reason to be insecure. I made you. I love you. You're special. Third thing is you need to remember that God's always in control. Doesn't matter who you work for. They can be mean. They can be nice. They can be your best friend, or they can be seemingly your worst enemy. They're not in charge. God is in charge. God is in charge of them and you. He calls the shots. Matthew 10:29 says, not one sparrow will fall to the ground apart from the will of our Father in heaven. God is in charge. It's a remedy for what you're feeling now. If you want to get this, Lord created me a clean heart, acknowledge it. Remember you're special. Remember that God is in charge. 4 things, put your trust in the Lord. Put your trust in the Lord. Stop planning your life out on paper. Stop trying to call all the shots yourself and ask the Lord to just guide you, lead you, strengthen me. Yeah, God didn't give you a promotion. That man didn't give you a promotion. God did. You didn't go out and find your own wife. God brought her to you. Yeah. You didn't get approved for that loan for your house. God gave it to you. Oh, you need to look at it like that. You don't want Wells Fargo to be your God. They don't care. No, you want the Lord to help you. Because if Wells Fargo was the one that gave it to you, then you need to take care of Wells Fargo in your own resources. But I got news for you. I've been in this long enough to know that there's some times when I didn't have enough in the bank to take care of what they wanted down there on the mortgage. I got to tell you that. That's just the truth. And somehow, when the due date came, the payment was there. Now, I couldn't depend on the bank to do that, but I know a God who can make that happen. Yeah, I know a God who will send you a check for the exact amount that you weren't expecting, and he'll take care of you. Yeah, when you say, Lord, I'm dependent on you. You gave it to me. I'm asking you to help me to keep this and be a blessing to somebody, and he'll do it. He'll do it every time. The 5th thing I want you to do is be grateful for who you are and what you have. Yeah, be grateful. Be grateful. Be grateful. Be grateful. Who used to sing that song, Be Grateful? Because there's somebody else who's worse off than you. Be grateful. Yeah, be grateful that God has still got you around here blessing you. Be grateful for what you have. I saw in the paper this week a young lady who started college, got to Auburn and found out she had a very aggressive form of cancer. She met a boy, and that boy loves her. She's been sick. She's had to go through chemo after chemo. She had to drop out of school, and he loves her enough that he dropped out of school too, so he could come home and take care of his fiance. Now, they're getting married in a couple of weeks. You think she's grateful? She says, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Not for what might happen. I'm grateful for what I got right now. Right now, when all the other guys would come in and look at my situation and run away, God gave me somebody who looked at my situation and ran in to help me. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. You think her parents are grateful? She said she'd be at class sometime, too weak to do anything, and the boy would come and literally pick her up. Take her where she needed to go. Take her to the emergency room. She said he's been to the emergency room so much, they know him when we get there, and they know he's there for me. Be grateful for what you got, for who you got. And last thing, get your eyes off what everybody else is doing and refocus on what God is doing in your life. Refocus on what God wants for you. I guarantee you, you will not accomplish what God intends for you if you're simply trying to walk in the steps that somebody else is walking. It won't happen. If all you're doing is paying attention to what they're doing and watching them and dressing like them and acting like them, then you can't be the unique you that you are. Get your eyes off them. Put your eyes on God and ask him to focus you. When you do that, competition becomes irrelevant. You're not trying to do what they did. You're trying to do a new thing. Something that's never been done before. When I'm so focused on just doing and being what God wants me to do, then it doesn't matter what other folk are doing. And I can also stand confidently because I know the Lord has got my back. People come up to you and they say, what are you doing? And I say, just what the Lord wants me to. Nobody has an answer for that because they don't know what God has told me to do. So if you're in here today and you're struggling with jealousy, you need to turn to the Lord today. Some of y'all need to do it for the first time. You've never, ever acknowledged that you've been jealous. And you need to trust Christ as your Savior and as your Lord. Some of y'all need to rededicate yourselves just by the simple act of rededication. Lord, I've been going well, but I let myself get off track. I'm ready to get myself back on track right now. And you can't kill the jealousy bug without Jesus. No, the jealousy bug thrives in all sorts of situations. Yeah, it's impossible to kill him without Christ. Jealousy bug thrives in the old nature of man, but cannot survive in the new nature of man. No. There is some fruit in the spirit that'll kill the jealousy bug. That'll get rid of them. It's called a love bug. The love bug will get rid of the jealousy bug. Yeah. You got to lay it at Christ's feet, though. I'm inviting you to do so right now. I want you to know that I'm not trying to give you a message that has no practical application. I'm not. I'm trying to give you something that's very real in your life. You can't be jealous of other folk. In your folder, your worship folder, I wonder if y'all ever look at that and look at the ABCs of salvation. We put it in there, but I don't think people ever really read it. It's simple. Being saved, once the Lord moved on your heart, is as simple as admitting it, admitting that you're a sinner, admitting that you have a duty to apologize to the Lord for the sin you've committed in your life and for being a sinner. Then you have to believe. And believe that Jesus died on the cross for you. Not only that he died on the cross, but he stayed there. Stayed there until heaven was satisfied. And the Bible says that on the Sunday after his crucifixion, he was resurrected. You have to admit you're a sinner, believe that Christ died for sinners like you, and then the C is simple. It's just confess. Confess this. Say it publicly. Say it publicly. Confess it. Choose to accept what he's done for you. A, B, C. It's not complicated. If you're here today and you've realized, not that you're jealous, because I got news for you. Every person sitting in this room right now has dealt with jealousy at some point. Some folk have dealt with it a little bit better than other people, but there's not one person in this room that hasn't dealt with that and specifically dealt with it. But I got news for you. Some of us have decided to give all that stuff to Jesus. We've accepted him and we want him to be the Lord of our lives. And so we're wrestling with that every day. Help me, Lord. Which way are you? Where are you now? Have you given your life to Christ? While the choir stands to sing this song, if you've never given your life to Christ, today I'm inviting you to do so. If you've never, ever had a church family, I'm inviting you to come to one right now. You've been away from your church family, I'm inviting you to come on back home right now. Come to Jesus just now. Doors of our church are open.
Come to Jesus.
Yeah. Come to Jesus.
Why don't you come
Help us.
Come to Jesus. Just now.
Yeah.
He will save you.
He will save you
from your sin.
He will save you.
Deep down within. He is able.
Prayer that you will grow from this message. But in case you need a refresher, you can always stop by our physical location and worship with us at 7600 Division Avenue over in the Eastlake community. I believe one visit and you'll find out that we truly are the friendliest church from the parking lot to the pulpit. Looking forward to meeting you. God bless you. Take care.